So, you want to know what it's like playing badminton in China right now? Hey guys, I'm Badminton Becky, an American living and playing badminton in China. And if you believe the hype of the media, I'm about to die from this killer virus. Okay, I obviously don't believe the hype, but I thought I'd tell you what life is like in China right now. Let me get this stupid thing off. There's no people around and coronavirus doesn't grow on trees. So I think I'm safe to speak without this mask. Okay, so actually I've only been back for about a week. For 3 weeks I was in Thailand because right now is winter holiday. So it's already a time where we don't have school or class or anything. So I was in Thailand for 3 weeks and I didn't make any videos while I was there, but let me show you something super cool that I saw. Advertisement in the crazy big shopping area of Bangkok. Yeah. So the virus struck like while I was in Thailand, and honestly, I'm not that nervous about it. I've been in China for 11 years. I've lived through bird flu, swine flu, MERS, couple other little viruses that didn't make much news. This isn't an uncommon thing living in China. So a lot of us that have been here for a long time, we are not like especially worried. I mean, of course, we are taking precautions and following all the guidelines and stuff. The news makes it seem like we're all kind of like panicking and like rioting at supermarkets and stuff, and that's totally not true. I'm not in Wuhan, the center of, where this all started. Xiamen is about 600 miles. It's like 1,000 kilometers away from there. We, as of today, January 30th, we have 6 cases in the city, and all those people came from outside Xiamen. We are expecting an explosion. Everyone's expecting an explosion in cases because it has a 2-week incubation period. So we're expecting a lot more cases, and I'm sure we'll get a lot more cases in Xiamen. But right now, very quiet and peaceful. In fact, it's quite lovely. When I came back to Xiamen on the airplane, that was maybe my scariest moment because airports have the most people. And on the airplane, we landed and everybody got up to, get off, and the doors never opened. And we stood and we stood and we stood. And then the stewardesses said over the loudspeaker, there's a sick person on board. Please, everybody sit down. So you don't want to hear that during an epidemic. But I could actually see the sick person. They were sitting in the front rows, and there was no coughing or sneezing or anything. I think they were other kind of sick. I think they were throwing up maybe. I felt pretty good because everyone now kind of pays attention to when people cough or sneeze. So on the flight, we knew that nobody was having any cold issues because that would have been discovered. But they did also call some names, and a family 2 rows in front of me identified themselves as these people, and officials entered the plane, some suited up in quarantine clothes, and they asked them if they had a cold, if they had any flu symptoms, and the family said no, and I know it was true because they were 2 rows ahead of me and they were not coughing at all the whole time. But I was a little scared because this is not a flu where one person sneezes and the entire airplane gets it. This is not a disease that flies on the air easily. So if there's a sick person on an airplane, they actually just quarantine the 2 rows ahead and the 2 rows behind of the person. And I was in the 2nd row behind that person. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to get quarantined? But luckily, I don't know what their problem was, but it wasn't sickness. So luckily, we were able to get off. I had to go through medical quarantine before I was allowed through customs. But I did make it back okay. Daily life is obviously very restricted. They don't want people gathering in any place, even though we don't have much of an outbreak here. The only stores that are really allowed to be open right now are supermarkets. McDonald's, Starbucks also open, but that's basically it. So there's really nowhere for people to go. So a lot of people are kind of super bored, but you can see in Xiamen, like, weather is beautiful this time of year, cool, crisp, warm, sun, but they did unfortunately close the parks and everything as well, and the buses are running very limited. So they just don't want people to move. And to be honest, people here are kind of happy to do it. Nobody here is disgruntled that we have to wear masks everywhere. To get into any supermarket, any shop, even to get back into where I live, you have to have your temperature checked with a temperature gun. And nobody's really complaining about that either. So what about badminton? The badminton courts are, of course, not allowed to be open because that would be a space where a lot of people could gather. But you know, my courts were like family. And so if you call and you wanted to play, you know, people be like, hey, who wants to play this afternoon? So there were still like some get-togethers, but now, you know, restrictions are getting tighter and tighter, and my coach has decided to like totally close the courts because I think he could get in trouble if you know, a cop walked by and saw people in a badminton court. So unfortunately, it is totally closed, and we have no idea when it will open. Kind of sucks to be a badminton player in China right now. There's a ton of funny videos on TikTok, the app. It's called Douyin in Chinese. There's a ton of funny videos, and there's a ton of instructional videos about what badminton players can do when you can't go outside and play badminton. I'll show you some of the funny ones. And as for the Chinese national team, the pro players, I actually have not heard what they are up to. Travel out of China is getting harder and harder in that other countries are refusing people from China. So I don't know if they've already gotten out and they're, you know, chilling somewhere, or if they're still in mainland China and they're just planning on not going to some of the upcoming competitions. I don't know. There is a Chinese competition coming up in Linshui. I would bet money that that will be canceled or postponed. Nobody wants to send their players unnecessarily to China right now. Even though this is the very scary killer virus du jour, it's acting just kind of like a slightly worse flu. Huge majority of people that are dying are elderly or already sick. Young, healthy people seem to be able to recover after a couple weeks. So honestly, people here were not actually scared to get the virus. We're just kind of dealing with everyday restrictions on life and stuff, because I think chances of getting the virus, if you take precautions, you know, if you wear your mask in public places, you wash your hands a lot, you don't run around in groups and stuff, your chances are really slim. I was at the airport, which is scary, but I feel pretty safe because I wore a mask the whole time and washed my hands after. And I know there's a ton of conspiracy theories and everything, but if you look at the data from throughout the world, China is not controlling all the information about this disease. Lots of countries and thousands and tens of thousands of doctors all around the world are working on it. So if there was some sort of discrepancy between official numbers and what was happening in other countries, people would have said something by now. So I think we can reliably say that the figures, the infection rate, the mortality rate seem pretty consistent with people in all different countries and all different medical care. So of course we'll have to see. We're in the early days and things are changing, and by the time this comes out, whatever I say will probably already be outdated. But I can assure you, you know, daily life, a lot of restrictions, but people just kind of see it as a holiday. There's a lot of people like cleaning houses and baking bread, and we're all pretty chill here. I am not in Wuhan. The people in Wuhan are probably understandably freaking out and panicking. I'm glad I'm not there. But a lot of people ask me if I want to go back to America, and the answer is no. Precautions are being taken here. No one's taking this lightly. Honestly, the people that are freaking out are people not in China. If you talk to a lot of expats who are not in Wuhan, Wuhan is an exception. But if you talk to most expats, most of us are probably a lot more chill and relaxed about this than you might have been led to believe. So that's the update from China. I will keep you informed. Consider me your man on the street in China. If you have any questions, write them in the comments below and I'll answer it as best I can. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what will happen in the future, but I can tell you what common people are doing right now. And everybody's chomping at the bit to start playing badminton. So the second the courts will open, I will run there and start playing along with everyone else. And hopefully next time I will see you on the court. See, even when you're out and about, but there's nobody around you, you don't have to wear the mask. So